Welcome back to another explainer. Today, we are putting English present tenses under the microscope to really master their structural and contextual nuances. If you've ever found yourself second-guessing whether to say, I live here or I am living here, you are in exactly the right place. Let's decode the present tense. Here is our roadmap for today. 1. Decoding the two presents. 2. The anatomy of tenses. 3. Contrasting present tense usage. 4. The logic of stative verbs. And 5. Rule breakers, those dynamic stative verbs. Let's jump right in. Starting with Section 1, Decoding the two presents. Photography versus videography. I want you to think of the present simple as a still photograph, right? It captures permanent facts, long-standing routines, general truths. It's a static snapshot of reality. On the flip side, the present continuous is literally like hitting record on your phone's video camera. It's actively documenting actions unfolding right now, in this exact second, or highlighting temporary situations that are currently in motion. Photograph versus video. Keep that lens in mind as we go. Moving on to Section 2, the anatomy of tenses, looking at our structural formulas. Let's look under the hood at the mechanics here. For the present simple, we rely almost entirely on the base verb. Honestly, the only major structural quirk you need to remember is that crucial third-person S or ES for he, she, or it, like she walks. Meanwhile, the continuous tense, that's a total team effort. It absolutely requires the auxiliary verb to be, am, is, or are, paired directly with the present participle, which is our ing verb. We are walking. You gotta have both parts to make the video camera roll. Quick side note here on changing the polarity of the sentence. The auxiliary do or does swoops in and takes over all the heavy lifting when we shift the present simple into negative statements or questions. Because does steps up to carry the tense in a question like, does she walk? The main verb gets to relax and go back to its pure base form without that S. All right, Section 3, contrasting present tense usage and applying this in context. Applying these structures completely alters the underlying reality of what you're saying. The juxtaposition is incredibly clear. When you say, I work in a school, using the simple tense, you're showing us a photograph. It implies a permanent career, a stable fact about your identity. But the second you switch on the video camera and say, I am working in a school, using the continuous tense, you're signaling to the listener that this is just a temporary gig. Maybe you're filling in for a semester, or just doing it until you find a job in your actual field. We see the exact same shift with habits. Notice how adverbs of frequency, words like usually, always, or never, anchor the simple tense to a permanent routine. He usually eats dinner at 7 p.m. But throw in expressions like these days, currently, or at the moment, and you activate the continuous tense to show a changing, temporary, or entirely new habit. He is eating a lot these days. It's an ongoing, developing situation. So just to summarize our framework, stick to the simple tense for timeless facts and universal truths. Water boils at 100 degrees. It did yesterday, it does today, it will tomorrow. But use the continuous tense for right now realities. The water is boiling now, grab the pasta. One is a universal scientific fact, the other is your immediate active environment. Okay, so we've got the video camera versus the photograph down perfectly. But this brings us to a huge grammatical roadblock that trips up so many learners. What do we do when an action isn't actually a physical action at all? That takes us to Section 4, the logic of stative verbs, the true rebels of grammar. It is time to meet the rebels, the words that stubbornly reject the ing video camera. Let's define our terms real quick. A stative verb describes a state of being, a mental condition, or a quality. It does not describe a dynamic physical action like running, jumping, or building. And because you logically cannot be in the process of a permanent state of being, these verbs completely refuse the present continuous tense. Instead of just staring at a massive random list of verbs to memorize, categorizing them gives us a much better logical framework. They almost always fall into 4 buckets: verbs of thinking, like know and understand; verbs of emotion, like love and hate; verbs of possession, like own and belong; and verbs of the senses, like see and hear. These are things you are or states you experience, not actions you actively do in some step-by-step process. The crucial point here is this: you either possess the knowledge or you don't. There's no ongoing, developing action of knowing. You can't be 50% done with knowing a fact, right? Which is exactly why saying, I am knowing the answer sounds so incredibly jarring to a native ear. It is grammatically and logically impossible. But of course, there are exceptions. Section 5, rule breakers, are dynamic stative verbs. English is a highly flexible living language, and this is where our static states put on a dynamic disguise. Take the verb have. When have means to physically own or possess something, it is strictly stative. I have a car. But when its meaning shifts away from possession to actively experiencing an event, like having a party, having a bath, or having a good time, boom, it suddenly welcomes that continuous ing. You are in the dynamic process of the event. We see that exact same split personality with the verb think. Your static, unchanging opinion on coffee takes the simple tense. I think coffee is great. But the active, temporary mental gymnastics of planning your itinerary, that requires the continuous tense. I am thinking about my holiday. One is a fixed viewpoint, the other is your brain actively turning the gears. Or look at sensory verbs, which can also split right in two. The soup possesses a static quality. It tastes great. It just sits there being delicious. But the chef? The chef is performing a deliberate, temporary physical action. The chef is tasting the soup. They're literally bringing the spoon to their mouth and analyzing the flavor in that exact moment. As academic sources brilliantly point out, when we deliberately force a traditionally stative verb into the continuous tense, we are doing it on purpose. We're intentionally highlighting to the listener that the state we're describing is unusually intense, highly temporary, or currently undergoing a developmental change. We are basically turning the photograph into a video to make a very specific point. As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with this to chew on. We so often view grammar as just this dry set of rules to memorize. But if choosing a simple tense over a continuous tense fundamentally shifts a permanent fact into a fleeting moment in time, well, then grammar isn't just a rule book, is it? It's the actual lens through which we capture, process, and share our reality with others. Choose your lenses wisely. Keep practicing those structures, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.